Hi, everyone. This is the fifth session where Brian and I continue building an amazing component for Blazor applications that allows you to infinitely scroll, in a grid. This component is so amazing because, it's agnostic. It doesn't, really, tie you up with a particular data source. It allows you to kind of integrate with whatever data source you want and easily communicates the skip and take, as you scroll down, it continues to kind of pull in more data and more information, whether you are integrating with an API or with memory or with, IO intensive storage. It doesn't matter because it's completely abstracted away. So it can allow web developers, people that are developing experiences in Blazor, to have the best engineering experience possible. And as usual, I have my dear friend here, Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hi everyone.
Brian is joining me today, and today we're gonna, jump a little bit ahead and start working on the base component. Just for the people that, haven't seen the philosophy, behind how we're standardizing, building this software. We mentioned this a little bit at the beginning of the video, but I'm gonna just give people a little bit, Brian, if you're okay with it, I'm gonna give people a little bit of a quick kind of overview. So what Brian and I have been doing so far is that we went and built a broker, right? And that broker basically abstracts away all the native out-of-the-box operations that an iQueryable can give you. And then we went and built a service in front of this broker, and we said, hey, let this service interface with this broker. But this service is going to do what I call a foundation service. This service basically takes care of, offering capabilities and functionality that are test-driven, standardized, productized, something that you can use out there and integrate with anything without having to have hard dependency on a native API. So you're basically working with your local code. And today we're gonna go the other route. You go from brokers to services. Now we're gonna go from base component, and then we're gonna intersect with our services here at a little component here that we call the component, which is our product. Our product here is that this bVirtualization component. This is what we've been working up towards. And what's going to happen here is that this component here, what it's going to do, the base component abstracts away the native virtualization component that comes outside of the box with Blazor. And it wraps it up with a base component so we can control the inputs and outputs and we can write tests against it, and then use that bVirtualization to basically, you know, pull data from here and pass the data down here to the base. And basically, you have this one nice, sweet component that basically is doing all the work for you, all test driven, modularized. You will notice that every single component in our architecture here for this product, is doing one thing and it's doing it really well, and it's doing one thing only. That's it. It's not doing multiple things, not trying to be smart. It's just doing one thing, and that's all it cares about. So far, Brian and I already are done with this. Now we're going to start doing this base component, the wrapping around. It's just like building a broker. This is exactly the same thing. We're wrapping that virtualization component, and let's jump in real quick into the code here. What do you think, Brian? The beautiful thing about base and brokers is that you don't have to write tests for them. You're just wrapping up something outside of the box, and we're working with that, throughout this development here. I'm going to go to Visual Studio here. Here's Visual Studio. And I'm going to create a new branch for us. I think I opened up the wrong one. One sec. Let me open up the right one. Just a moment. I have two bVirtualizations. One of them is the one that's actually, there it is. I found it. One of them is the one that's actually connected to Git, to GitHub, and the other one is the one that I took a copy from. I'm still, believe it or not, all of these projects, I'm still a little rusty when it comes to just opening up a project and just have it pushed to an existing repository. Here we are, Brian. So this is our thing. Let's go up to master here, or main, and let's pull in the latest and greatest. We're gonna run some tests. We're gonna make sure our code is in good, healthy state before we move on to building that base component. So git pull like this. I'm gonna pull in master. Brian, a lot of people have asked me this question. Said, why are you using command line? Well, it's just a habit. It's just a habit. You get to use this or use that, whatever works for you. Okay, let's run these four tests. We have four tests in here. Covers up all the possible scenarios, just like you guys saw us last time. Here you go. So all of this is passing. Wonderful. And now let's go into the part about building. So you, as you can see here, and let me kind of increase the font so people can see. Let's see here. Let's go into, let me increase the font here real quick because I want people to see the tree, the solution tree on the right side here. So I'm gonna go with 175. And let's see here. This should look a little bit better now. Okay, I think this is a little bit better. And I'm gonna give people even the full view here so they can see what I'm doing. Okay, now let's go ahead and build this base component. So I'm gonna go here and build a new Razor component, and I'm gonna call it, virtualization base, like this. And this guy is gonna be my wrapper. This is the wrapper that has the actual virtualization component within it. Now, Brian, you're gonna help me here a little bit because I haven't done much with this virtualization component. Is it this guy,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
virtualize?
I was about to
Okay.
say you need to pull in a library, which is this library here. Yep.
Okay. So using this guy like this, and then
Yep.
we can just say virtualize. And this
Yep.
guy basically looks like it takes in, let's see what it takes in. It takes in child content, of course. So I'm gonna give it that kind of power. And I'm assuming the child content is whatever list you
Yeah.
pass in there, right? So that
Yeah.
basically means, that
So
basically
it's
means, go
I've
ahead, go ahead, go
typed
ahead,
T. Yeah, I've
go ahead,
typed T item. Yes. Yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so let me
Okay.
put in the back
Sorry.
end of the front end here real quick. So this is virtualization b base.razor.cs. That's going to put the back end for that front end. I'm going to
Hmm.
partialize this because now there are two classes. One is markup and the other. Both are C# underneath. And then this is component base just for people who want to understand where we're calling on initialize from. And I'm assuming I'm going to pass this as a parameter. And this guy is going to be a render fragment. And I'm assuming this render fragment is going to be a child component.
I actually think it's going to be child component. So it's a render fragment of type T item.
Oh, you're going to pass the TI. Okay, got it. Okay, sounds
Yeah.
good. So this guy will be T based. And then also up in here, I think there's an annotation for this guy here. You can go here and say,
Add
uh,
type param. Yeah.
yeah,
Type
type
param.
param, right?
Yes.
Type param. There you go.
There it
And
is.
that guy is also T. There you go. And I'm assuming this virtualize, does it take a type? Does it need a type?
Yes, you got to say it's T item. So T item equals and just T. Yep.
T. Nice. Okay. So now it's generic. We can pass in student,
Mhm.
report, whatever the case may be. Okay. Okay, so I have this in place. And then what other properties does this virtualize? So now I'm gonna go here and say child component. So whatever you're passing in is gonna go right into this guy, right?
Mhm.
And you already said this render fragment needs to have that T type, generic type. That's perfect. What else should we do here? What other parameters does this guy
So
take?
there's overscan.
Overscan
Overscan. Yeah.
count. Nice. And this guy takes an integer.
Yes, and
Okay.
basically, so if the screen's displaying, say, 8 items, you can say, I want to, it'll say, okay, whatever you put in here, it'll be added to that 8 items. So it sort of gives it a bit of a buffer of how many items are being downloaded before it needs to request more data.
Okay. Okay. Let's do that. So this is param.
Uh, uh,
Go ahead.
it defaults to a value of 3 on the virtualization component. So.
Gotcha. Should we call it overscan still, or should we name it something else? We can if we want to.
Oh, we could, but as we're wrapping another component, and I actually tried to just to try and make it everything the same, so when people understand it a lot easier.
So overscan is okay, or what should we call it?
Uh, I think it's called overscan count. What was it called? Sorry, you had it there on the
Oh, yeah,
screen.
yeah. The other one is overscan
Yeah,
count. That's right.
yeah. I try to match them because you're actually, I'm not reinventing. I'm not trying to claim I invented this. I'm just
Okay.
passing it through. Yeah,
Okay. Let's do that. Overscan count. So there's this guy.
yeah.
What else is in there that we need to care about, Brian?
Okay, we need to care about the way we're passing the data in. So there's a couple of different ways you can pass data into this virtualization component. I
Okay.
can't
Okay.
remember. So can we bring them up on a screen there? I just can't remember the name of it.
Oh, oh yeah, absolutely. So there is let's see. Oh, there's a bunch of those, but let me see here. We're looking for there's child content. Oh, I do love this. Did you notice this one? I've
Yeah,
never
yeah.
used this before, by the way. Yikes. So
So
there's a
we'll be using the items provider.
and this items provider is
Is
basically an items provider delegate. Is that like a function?
yeah. It's going to be called by this virtualized component. It's the one that'll ask for the page that we're after. It'll be requesting. It is basically an interface, and it requests it basically passes in two values: the offset and the amount of data that it wants. And
Ah, okay. Let's say
so
items provider. Go ahead.
if you if you put your mouse on that and press F8,
Press F8, right?
F8.
F8, F8. Okay, gotcha. All right, F8. F8 doesn't do anything.
Hmm. Um,
What should it
maybe
do? What should it do?
I thought it'd take me to the virtualization component and explain the parameter. So maybe
Oh,
it's only
there's
on code.
I can yeah, I can see it here. It says basically attribute items provider on tag helper element virtualize requires a value. Tag blah blah blah. Microsoft virtualization cannot be okay. This is gets or sets a function providing items to the list. Okay, that's easy. Like we can go here and say, okay, so you want a bunch of items to the list, and this is items provider delegate,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, okay, I'm not gonna ask people to do that. Instead, I can go and say, first of all, privately, we can go and pass in here private something like items provider delegate, something like that.
This will be hooking up to our service, won't it?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we should just pass the iQueryable to it, and then it natively it kind of, because you don't want to expose this is a
Mm-hmm.
native or external model. You shouldn't expose that to your
I have it
component.
in my prototype. I didn't. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay, okay. So I can go and say here, get items, something like that. I wonder if that would do the trick for us here. I'm gonna say throw new not implemented exception like this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian. This is not implemented. New not implemented exception, just for now. I wonder if
Okay.
that would calm the monkey. Let's see. This here. Would that work? I'm actually surprised this guy doesn't take parameters. So it just returns items then.
Um,
Uh,
I'm just starting to think. I'm trying, and at the same time, I'm opening my original POC
yeah, yeah,
to see what I did.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
I don't think. I think it was just get on. I don't. Oh, gosh, sorry.
You could have just called the function like fat arrow a function that basically gives you back an iQueryable or something. Would that be it?
Yeah. So in my code, I just got get data provider, and I don't have the open and close brackets. So it's just passed as a. So yeah,
So
you
so,
got yeah.
so you just
So
went
just,
like
no,
this,
no, no, no. The opposite. You deleted. Yeah, deleted. Yeah. Just
like
remember
this.
that. Yes. Yeah.
But what's the signature of your
Going to that
let's
now.
see. Yeah.
So it's value task items provider T item is the result, and you pass in a items provider request.
Okay, so this is value task of items provider delegate like this.
No, items provider result.
Okay. Items provider. Oh, I see what you're saying. This guy right here.
Yeah,
And this is get items async then because it's
yeah.
asynchronous, I'm assuming. And this
And
guy
what you
is
pass in, what you have to
uh
pass in is an items provider request.
items provider request.
Yes.
Okay, so that's your
So
input.
the request has the offset and the amount, and the result has the total items found and the items.
Ah, okay. So if I put this in here now, this guy should be happy, I think, because it
Mhm.
knows you're basically giving it the reference. Oh, that's beautiful. Now I can play around with that. I can go and say, since this guy here is like this, all I can do really is that I can go here and say, give me a parameter. See, this is how I'm hiding this away from the outside
Mm.
world. I'm basically going and saying, here is I think an event callback would be better. An event callback, and an event callback could return the T that we're looking for, right? And that's basically your event callback like this. And what we would do is that we can go here and say, wrap that up. You're passing in this function. So every time you're scrolling, you're calling the local function inside that guy. You know what I mean? The only real challenge here is basically we're gonna probably need another function in here, private async value task. I'll tell you, this guy here is the items provider result with T, and this guy in here will say process items just for now. And this guy is not supposed to take an input parameter. But what it's going to do is that it's going to call this guy with this guy. So it's going to take this
Mm.
guy and make something out of it. I'm just wondering here, we should probably pass in the iQueryable itself in here.
Yeah,
If
I
I,
was thinking of that. Yeah, I was thinking. Don't know if it should have been T or an I enumerable T or an iQueryable T.
yeah, if I pass in the iQueryable in here with the T, like this, and we might need to change some assumptions that we had, but this is basically a data source. I'll just say this is your
Mm-hmm.
data source like this. We're gonna stay consistent with the language on Blazor. And then what I can do here is that basically I can go and say, okay, you have this data source. Now I can say items provider request, and this guy will say, this is your request right here, but inside of this request, I wonder what the type is of this. Is this guy a struct? Is that what it is?
I think it is. Yes.
Ah, okay.
See
Let's
how
see.
see how it's light green. Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy wants to start index an account, basically, which
Mm-hmm.
is okay because the you know what? Actually, let's see. Didn't we build a function that says
Skip take. Yeah.
yeah, skip take, and we also built a function that says get offset and get count, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the virtualization service here, we have two of these. We have one that says get the current position, that's start, and then
Mm-hmm.
get the page size.
Mm-hmm.
So I can probably go up in here. Let's see, I can make this work. Event callback, uint, um, um, uh, uh, let's see, get offset callback like this. And then I can also go and say parameter, oh, parameter, and this guy would be public event callback. And this is also a uint, and that would be get page size callback like this. And now I can go down here and say, for each one of these, if I want to go and say, this control space. Oh man, it's really refreshing that I don't have to. Sometimes when I'm working with Teams, it interferes with the shortcuts on the on Visual Studio. Okay, so I can go here and say, okay, this guy wants a start index and a count. So start index would be go ahead and call get offset callback. Actually, it would be something like invoke async like this. So that's one, right? And then the other one would be pay count. And I'm assuming count would be the page size, right? So this is
Mm. Yep.
await, get page size, callback, invoke async. Something like this. Let's see, does that make this guy happy? This guy still wants the it wants the cancellation token. So here's a cancellation token for now. Cancellation token, and that would be new cancellation token, I guess. You could give it something like this. So that should do that. Now what's the issue that we
Yes.
have here?
You incidents, I believe. Maybe. Have we
That's
returned? What
that,
are we?
that that's right. It's looking for an int, and we're
Mm-hmm.
returning a uint. That's a
Didn't
problem.
pick.
Does
I
it want
suppose.
full encapsulation maybe? What does invoke async return? Invoke async at this point in time will return a task. Can it return a value? Let's see. Interesting. So invoke async here is returning just a task, and we want it to return an argument, basically. We can actually pass those. I have a solution for it. We can pass those as just normal input parameters and let these calls happen on the component. So I can go here and say, offset. That will simplify things much better. And we can
Are
go here.
they
Go
are
ahead.
they input parameters, or are they
Mm,
parameters that come from the actual component we're wrapping? Because it's in control of how many, where it wants to start, and it's in control of how many items it wants.
mm. So what do you reckon? What do you suggest? Mm,
Um, so what I did is, yeah, I just trying to explain it in my
mm,
terms. So what did I do? I'm just looking. So I simply had an event callback and int, and so basically, because when it comes back, it tells me how many items there were, and we need to pass that back through for other reasons. It's actually, and
mm.
I also have a private function called get data provider, and it just simply return an items provider result t item. So that's what we've got to remember. That's what the virtualization component needs, is an items provider result t item, and that's what we need to pass back to the
Mm-hmm.
component. And
But you don't want to return that outside of this base, right? You don't want to shoot that out. Otherwise, you're letting this model leak
okay,
unchecked. So
right.
uh,
So yeah, I get it. So you want to build that? Yeah. So you want to pass the
it's
data back and
yeah.
build that. Yeah.
Yeah, think think
So,
of- think about it this way. If I go at any point in time and say, we're gonna throw away that virtualization component, the base component, and add a new one, I shouldn't have to
mhm.
change if I have to change my code in the core component, the one that actually has the logic and the product, then I didn't
I
really
have.
abstract well. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm building in. Yeah. So the mistake I made is I built in a dependency on the virtualization component.
Yes, yes. So that's basically the mindset. So this is why I'm trying to stick to um
Mhm.
I'm trying to stick to none primitive types, primitive or local, right? That's
Mhm.
basically what I'm trying. Think about these base components as brokers, basically. That's really all I'm doing here. But let's just see here. If I pass in page size, let's say offset like this, and then if I go here and say here's your page size like this, page size like this, and then I don't need this guy. What do you think, Brian? That might work. So now that so this guy now is building this component for me. Now I can just go up in here and say, okay, now go ahead and get items async, and I'm passing in the request in there. Now
Mhm.
my question for you would be, what should we do here? Like, what does
Return a tuple. Maybe we should return a tuple, and the tuple being the items count and the list of items that are returned.
okay? Isn't it
That's,
expecting us to return like an items provider result?
yeah, but if we're going to break the dependency, we need to return a tuple, which is what he provides. I'm just thinking. Sorry, maybe I got it wrong.
No, no, but wait. This get items async is private. It's only gonna be called by this guy in
Yeah,
here.
right. Yeah.
So
Okay.
this, yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
trying what this guy is doing right now is that it's kind of calling this guy, but what I'm
Yeah.
just trying to do here is that I'm trying to think what will happen here. So let's see, items provider request dot um what does it do? It just has the count and the start index within. That's all. What does an items provider result look like in terms of structure? It has just the total
Yes.
item count. That's all.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And the enumerable.
Oh, ho, ho. So we
So
should also
that's the page of items. Yes.
yeah. So do we need to also pass in our iQueryable as an input parameter in here so we can process that? Here's my thought. My thinking here is that to go like this and say iQueryable of t and here's your data source. You're passing in offset, data source, and page size, and you're going down in here and you're saying return new items provider result of T that takes in, right? And then in here, you're basically going and saying, well, this guy is going to take in two things. It's going to take, actually, it's got to take in, yeah, it's got to take in your data source, I'm assuming, plus your total item count. What do you think about that? Which would be the page size, I think. Hmm. But then if we do that, then this guy is useless. This offset, we haven't really used it. We haven't really done much with it.
Mm,
Hmm.
just just trying to think that through. So the data source is going to be a iQueryable that's going to
Yeah,
have it'll have the offset in the
probably.
skip and the yeah, it'll have the skip and the take sort of built into the iQueryable, won't it?
Yeah. You know, it would be cooler if we could just go up in here and say, instead of an items provider, why don't I just give this guy the iQueryable and let my, like,
Yes, this is yep,
is there a
yep.
way
That
I
makes
could just, yeah, what is this context? This is just a part of the, okay, the virtualize. Okay, let me see here if I can actually, there's items right here. So I can
Mhm.
just give this guy my data source
Then it won't generate the requests. Um,
to the
it,
virtualization item, right?
yeah,
It won't generate the request. I
I
see
don't
what you're.
think. Yeah, I think it'll just treat that as a memory list.
Interesting. Is there a way I can give this guy, let's see what else this guy has. I think there's a way that we can, so there's item size, item provider placeholder, item content, items, and item size. What is this? Gets the size of each item in pixels. What?
Yes,
Who cares about that?
that's,
Oh, because of the
that
page, because of the
yeah,
paging.
that's how it knows the total size of the scroll bar, etc.
That's pretty cool. This is a pretty cool. Okay, so it just wants the provider, and this provider basically, ideally, this items provider delegate takes in a, let's do a little bit of research. Let me go online here for a second, and let's see what we have, Brian. So if I go into, this is fun. We're learning something new. We're seeing how it works.
Sorry, I can't explain it too well.
No, 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 you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. So Blazor, this is you've been really helpful. I don't know this virtualized component. I really don't. I'm just trying to kind of figure out what. So let's see here. So this guy's saying flight summary, whatever, and then says, instead of doing all that, then pass in items as all flights.
Yeah, there's two ways of using this component. You can pass in items, or you can pass in the items request.
Right.
It's either one or the other.
But how? Okay, and then this is load employees.
This
Let's
is
see
it.
what.
This is
Yeah.
the way we want to go. Yeah.
That's the one. This one here goes and says, give me a request dot count, okay, and then total employees minus request dot start index, okay, and I'm assuming this total employees is like total employees count or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then in here we're basically going and saying employee service get employees. This is the call that I want to pass in as a parameter. And this here, this is the skip index, the skip take, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to pass in. And then this guy, okay, let's steal this code because we're cool. We can do it. Let's go down here. Let's go back to the code and see if that works. This is gonna be interesting. This is why I like to do stuff with you, Brian. We're gonna learn new stuff, right? Okay.
Yeah, the reason why I'm a little bit lost is we're sort of merging your idea with the iQueryable and with my idea. So I'm sort of.
Yes, yes, understandable. So I'm gonna call this request. This is where things get fancy, and we try to kind of
Mm-hmm.
conciliate what we're. So okay, I have all of this. This would be the callback. So this guy here would be. I need a callback in here, and this callback here will basically return callback source. And this callback here will give me some kind of an iQueryable in here. So this is this call that this guy is making here. I'm gonna go here and say await, and then um, let's see, it will be invoke async, invoke async like that. And this callback here is supposed to be an event callback that returns an iQueryable of t,
Mm.
right? So now I'm waiting on this one. And now this is your T type. This is your total employees. We can get that total employees easily by going and saying total employees equal the data source dot count, something like that. And see, the one thing a lot of people think is that when you call count, it might actually pay the price. It doesn't. That's why it was surprising to me. But let's see what this one does. This one here is basically saying invoke async, and I want this guy to actually return. I want it to return the value. Would action work instead of this? Let's see. Does action give me back a return type? I always get those confused. Let's see. Action. And this is the 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 in, and then there is an no, they're all in actually. The one that actually would return things is the event callback, and the event callback will basically, give you back an iQueryable of t like this, and that would be the one that would give you back the result. I'm actually surprised in here because it's basically saying, hey, I'm gonna give you a task, and that's all you get. So the callback here must be an input that is being
Because
passed
it's
in.
iQueryable, do we have to await it? Can we just call the iQueryable with parameters?
The iQueryable itself, we could, but then if you do that, the reason why I want this callback is that this is how we're gonna be able to, this is how we're gonna be able to call take skip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Take skip is gonna happen this way. Let's see here. I'm just trying to kind of process.
Yeah.
This one is a little tricky. Hmm. Let's see. Event callback, and that's your employees, and you want to pass in something that basically gives you back the data. And
But we
normally,
pass.
uh
Will we be passing in the service then?
the entire service,
Hmm.
your service should be called on the what would be the name of the parameter you're passing? The service itself?
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and your brokers shouldn't your brokers shouldn't be calling
Service.
the service. It shouldn't. And the trick here is that this employees is how this guy provides the item results back to whatever list you have. So that's fascinating. Let's see. I just need to remember how we because there's always a way that you can just pass in and it gives you back some data. I'm just trying to remember here what does Blazor do with it? Callback source, event callback, iQueryable, and then you passed in the data source. If you pass in a function, this function is basically going to be executed in here.
So, hmm.
Uh,
So the parameter be an event callback. Well, why should the parameter just be a queryable T?
like this data source in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you can do, well, if you do that, then I mean, we could try it. Let's go up in here and say, here is your employees. This is
Sorry, I keep keep forgetting about the take skip functionality you're trying to get access to. Sorry.
yeah. I'm wondering just because take skip what take skip is doing is I want to be able to pass in that take skip down as a parameter to this
Mhm.
function. So it would be the equivalent of having this event callback basically being take skip. That's really what it's doing. I think I figured out what to do. If we can pass in the data source in here, I think I figured it out. Check this out. This guy takes in an I collection. I collection. I think. So this is your data source right here. You don't really need any of that. Um, but then you lose the benefit of the virtualization that when you scroll, it keeps making that call. That's what I'm trying to
Mhm.
make it do. I want it like every time I do that scroll, it's gonna call back and say, get me more data, right?
Mm.
Um,
So should it be a callback or a function? A func, if you,
oh, can you
sorry.
do it? Can you do it this way, Brian? That'd be fun. Func,
Yeah,
you probably could, couldn't you? Yeah, there you go. I think that works.
there you
Look at
go.
you. Look at you. This is you right here, right? That's you, sir. Okay, let's see. All right, let's see if we can invoke this guy. Yeah, there you go. That's it. A func. So you don't need the wait in here. And that should technically solve our problem, my friend.
Mhm.
Well done.
Have I broken any of your rules?
No, you have not. That's the crazy part. You haven't. Okay, now let's see how strict is this component about the whole how strict is it? So we have this overscan. I don't think I need to provide this data source anymore, right? So I just need the provider,
Mhm.
right? And this will be get items async, and that guy should be happy. Now, my friend,
There are other parameters that we may want to expose, so we give them a complete pass through of the virtualize.
yes, but we're
Mhm.
gonna take it just step by step because this
Mhm.
this guy is tricky. So this guy wants from us the data source, the callback, the data source, whatever we have. I was hoping I could just pass in the total to it, and we could build a functionality that just gives it the total, out of the
What I,
total.
what I was doing with my POC is when it actually returns a result, I was taking that value and storing it into my service.
Mm,
So maybe we should have an event callback that passes up that we can subscribe to, that we call
right.
here that returns the total count.
Or what do you think about just instead, because this data source is not a good idea. I don't like this one. We could just give it what do
Mhm.
you think about giving it just the total in here? So this guy doesn't even know what the data source is anymore. It just knows that it needs to call this to get whatever data it needs.
It doesn't need to know the total before the first request, and then it actually gets the total back itself.
Okay. So it doesn't need that total. That's what you're saying.
Yes,
Well, then how is it gonna know? What are we
it
doing here?
knows. It knows the number of items it needs based on the screen real estate that it has.
Yeah, and why do we need this anyway? I don't see this being used anywhere. Screw that.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, that's the problem with copy paste programming.
Yes. Yes, I agree. But then you still need you still need the total in here. You need the total item.
No,
Uh,
that's what it returns. It doesn't need the total items. It needs how many items we're after,
so
which
how
should
about
be.
data.count then, like this, if I understand this correctly?
Uh,
Hmm.
no, how about we go request dot.
Hmm. Yes. Page size or count
Yes,
rather.
page sort of thing. Account. Yeah, that'll be yeah. That'll be how many pages the virtualization component wants.
And now we don't need that guy anymore because basically in here you're basically going and saying this is, yeah, that might work. And you don't even, let's see. So this guy is the guy that I actually want to give this item in here, but I don't think it will be very happy with that. Let's see what it does. Yeah. So what I can do is that I can go here and say, okay, buddy, I can just give you the actual call. because I make the request out of the input parameters. I don't need you to make the request. Unless this guy is using these requests to do something else with it. That's a story for another day. And I don't
Mhm.
know if this guy is it actually asynchronous? Okay, fine. So async. Oh, come on, give a brother a break. There you go. Oh my lord. Await. Yeah, you're fighting it. There. Would that make would that make it kind of happy? No, it don't. It still needs those input parameters that you're passing in to identify the inputs for the request. What we man, I really thought we could actually get this one out. So let's see, process items async. I could wouldn't we still want this virtualization item to pass down to us every time it's being called. The I think yeah I think I figured it out now.
Mhm.
It will ask us itself for so this func here. I wonder if this func can take in as well in addition to out. Yes, it can. Nice. So if I say I'm passing in a function that takes two integers and returns an iQueryable. Now I can go up in here, check this out. Here's request index, start index, and here's request dot count. Done, my friend.
Can I suggest maybe instead of just so we've got two ins and one out, can we make it a tuple that also includes the total out?
This one here, like a tuple?
No,
Yeah.
no, no,
Uh,
no, no. The output. So the output's the iQueryable T. So
uh-huh.
make it a tuple that includes the count.
Like this, and it also
Yeah,
includes int like this.
yeah.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
That
So
way we
now,
get
uh-huh,
that
uh-huh.
way we get a return from the when we make a call, we get a return that actually includes how many items are going to be out there.
Okay. I can go up in here and say this is data dot well, let me give it a name because it's
Mm-hmm.
okay here. So there is data source. I hope it lets me. If it doesn't, I'm gonna be very sad. And
Total
then this
count.
is the count. Total
Yeah.
count. Okay. Ooh, look at that. We're going to town with this thing. Check it out. So this is data source. Yay, beautiful. And this here would be it's not the request anymore. It's gonna be the data dot total count.
We're talking before the video about records, and this is instead of the tuple, you could have used a record as well.
Yes, yes, yes. We will refactor it. I promise. We'll make it look better. So what do you think? Does that look like a
Yep.
functional solution? So we can go up in here now and say, okay, buddy, you don't have to use that. So here's items, get items async. That should make it happy. And this way, whatever is whatever is working with you here doesn't know anything about any of these localized models
Mm-hmm.
at all. So that should do the trick. I
That
think that.
breaks the dependency I had. So that's awesome. Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Tomorrow we try it then. We test it a little
Mm.
bit and integrate it with the component. What do you think?
Yes.
All
It's a
right.
bit slow today. We got a bit bogged down, but that's good.
Yeah, yeah. Remember how I told you like we starting very slow and then it's gonna get complicated really, really fast. But just like I said, that's what makes it really interesting. Anyway, I'm gonna commit this as a, now that we have the Git file. Now I get to kind of go and say users, Hassan, Habib, and then base. And then this is virtualization, and that would be that. Let's save this. And then I'm gonna go here and say virtualization base component. So that creates a PR. PR gets merged. We get points. What do you think about that? I think that's a good
Well,
idea.
good.
Okay, so let me go over to share. Get ready because I've been hogging the keyboard today. It's gonna be your turn tomorrow with the component then. So let's go back to this guy. Let's go to let's see. This is bVirtualization. Here's the
Crazy snippet time.
yes, 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 yes. All right. So here's all the stuff that we have today. So we built in the base component, everything. I hope people watching us really, this is it. This is how engineering works. That's what makes it really fun, is that we can go in here and basically build that stuff. Um, Looks like Shri here started adding in. Shri's an engineer that works with me on other projects. Said I'm gonna go and build you the build project that generates the actions, and she also has some code cleanup in here. I think she just ran the code cleanup in there. So okay, let me merge this first before I do anything else. There's confirm merge. Brian, I don't know if you've noticed, but we also have in the build in here as well. So if you look at this little
Yeah,
dot.
I did see that. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
So what Shri is doing now is that she's basically pushing in this entirely new project. And what this project does is that you can write in the build steps in C sharp. So these are C sharp. You don't have to know about
Mhm.
YAML, right? And it generates the YAML component for you. That's what makes it really, really cool. I'll let that one in as well because that's a pretty good one. And then I'll look at, I think I'm very likely have already done the code cleanup that she's doing. Approve and run workflow. Let's see what Shree's then done there just to clean up our projects. All she's doing just clean up. Okay, fine. Approve and run. And then I'll merge this one in as well. I hope it doesn't conflict with anything. See, we
I hope
already
she's
had.
clean-
Uh,
I hope she's cleaning up your code, not mine.
we're 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 doing it together, brother. It's you and me, but people,
I just
yeah.
I was just being cheeky. That's all.
I know, I know, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. Look at that. We have a pretty nice history here around this project. I gotta make this project work. Anyway, so that's pretty much it for today. Tomorrow we're just gonna test it. We're gonna just see if it works, and then once we test it and we know that it works, we're kind of gonna hash out all the little details.
Yep.
Once that's done, we can start test driving the component, and that would almost last a couple of more sessions, and we should be done. What do you think about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. And bring in those other parameters so we fully expose the virtualization. Yeah. So
All
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Thank you
I'm
so
happy.
much, Brian. As usual, me
Thank you.
too. As usual, this is fun. Thank you so much, sir. And let's connect tomorrow as usual. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Bye.